Generation Change is a youth movement, an assembly of young leaders from across the Caribbean, aspiring to summon the regional leaders to consign to their promises for equality and inclusion for persons of the LGBT community in their respective countries. Generation Change will beget a new era of youth who collectively demand the acquisition of those rights that were promised for all. So Generation Change is not a pretense. It is not a facade. This movement is committed to its cause for equality for all. From the police, to the media, to the highest political figure, to the man on the street, the injustice is rampant. In many Caribbean territories, being anything but heterosexual is condemned and criminalized. In Jamaica, male homosexuality is punishable by 10 years hard labor. And in Trinidad and Tobago, it is punishable by a 25-year prison sentence, although it is not enforced. And while these laws are not enforced, violence and discrimination still exists and persists. Generation Change says we exist and we want justice, recognition, equality, and inclusion.
I always ask people, do you know a gay person? Have you spoken to a gay person? Because if you talk to somebody who's gay, whether it be gay or lesbian, and you listen to their story, it will change your perspective. Let's just start breaking down stereotypes and not fulfilling those stereotypes that people say, oh, you see, I told you so.
Lucia was my sister. And I told her that, and when I told her, I said, no, don't tell mommy, don't tell anybody, like, I don't know how they're going to react. And then it wasn't even 24 hours, and then she told my mom. She told my mom right away. And my mom was like, Jessica, Tammy told me something. Is that really true? I said, yes, mommy. And she's like, you serious? I said, yes, you sure not going for faith? I was like, no. I really think that I really like that person. And she was like, okay, well, you're my daughter. I cannot make your choices for you. That's not the best. I don't think that's the best thing for you. I wouldn't want that for you. But I guess I have to accept it. I'll always love you, and I'll accept you as you are.
St. Lucia's first and only LGBT organization, United and Strong, was formed in 2001 in response to the HIV/AIDS epidemic to reach men sleeping with men. However, UNS has always worked actively with women sleeping with women. The organization officially targets persons 25 to 50 years old due to societal attitudes that link pedophilia and homosexuality, and stymies our efforts with allusions to recruiting youth. However, we are aware of the gaps in services, and work is in progress to tailor services for young people. Very little statistical data is available on the situation of LGBTI youth in St. Lucia. However, UNS has compiled evidence that indicates a high level of youth displacement from family homes, bullying, violence, and marginalization. This includes a high level of violence for LB women. Many counter threats of corruptive rape by engaging in a bisexual or down-low lifestyle. LGBT youth face heightened levels of discrimination when seeking employment, securing adequate housing, or getting proper medical services or treatment. UNS has received reports of young women facing dismissal from their jobs for not adhering to feminine norms of dress. Young men attacked in public because of their perceived sexual orientation. Our young women are faced verbal attacks due to their non-conforming gender expression.
You may not get what you want today. You may not get what you want tomorrow, but God is never too late. I heard this at the University of Indiana back in 1992. I was 19 years old at the time, but its tone reigns true today as we speak of passive resistance and hope. When I speak of resistance in the region, it may not make the news media most times like the litigation in Guyana, Belize, or Jamaica, nor would the communities recognize it as such. Resistance starts with the simple act of coming out of the closet and burning it for firewood. It's running away from home, from your father, the pastor, after years of family violence. It's about taking a stand in St. Lucia or Jamaica, or simply being in a carnival, or living in a gully and turning to begging and turning to sex work. Resistance exists in the form of pageants. In one case, when opponents threatened to protest a pageant called Miss Gay Goddess Belize, The organizers simply shifted location from one side of the country to the next, and the LGBT individuals showed up. The right to expression will not be denied. For me, public backlashes are a century-old tradition, and litigation is a strategy to increase visibility and transform an issue into a national priority among politicians. It allows opponents to legitimize concerns of community violence, hate, and public bigotry. Without opponents, there can be neither dialogue nor motivation from social or legislative change. A cultural revolution is taking place that tells me that change is coming. Our challenge as a region is to build leadership capacity, to create national structures, and skillfully use platforms for issues like HIV and AIDS, crime and violence, gender issues, sexual and reproductive health, and development planning as intersecting issues to advance our cause. Generation change will be led by few, but it will be transformed by the many. Our governments in this region have yet to define their sovereign responsibility to its LGBT citizens. It is time we give them a call to do so. We are one in dignity and rights.
If I digress, it's not intentional, but the love I possess is not conventional. But I think I found it. And I intend to put my life and heart and soul around it. And if I had a trumpet, then I wish I could have sounded it, saying that this love is real and happiness surrounds it. But even love at its best can only manifest when it's put to the test. So if we give more love, we will not be loved less. So I've been thinking lately it's kind of similar to Haiti, because this world is really crazy and our future is looking hazy, because for love to be born, Mother Nature needs to beat us. We're all pregnant with love. It's like that unborn fetus. And some of us are asking for an abortion, but love is begging, please keep us. But we know not how to give birth to this love, so Mother Nature needs to teach us. So we need to stop sleeping, because it's not only Haitians that are weeping and seeking for a love that will never seem to be born, because their eyes are filled with tears and their hearts are all torn. And then we cover it up with hope, but this hope is now worn. But a day will come when the whole world will rejoice, not by chance or by luck or by status or by choice, but we will rise as a people above the social noise so that every single man can hear love's voice.
You have sex in public.
Nobody could do it. Right. So look. So it is against the law for even a heterosexual to practice it in public. So what you all are looking for is acceptance from the public.
For homosexuals to practice sex in
what?
Private.
I want them to understand their kids are their kids, and they should love their kids no matter what. They should be out there fighting for their kids and speaking up for equality. And if the parents could take on the mantle of crusader to make things right for their kids, things would change really quickly. It's not a choice someone makes. To be part of the LGBT community, it's who you are. And if everyone would understand that, I think things would move along a little quicker.
So I come from and live in supposedly the most homophobic place on earth, a label that was bestowed on Jamaica in 2006 and has been with us since. The truth is, while there are scales to measure the negative attitudes people have towards lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people, there is no real way or accepted way, as far as I know, to determine how or if a country is really homophobic. If you think about it, with all that is happening and has been happening around the world, one can't help but wonder how Jamaica came to be so characterized. The situation begs the question: what classifies a country as being the most homophobic? Is it the murder of LGBT people in one of the most murderous countries in the world? Is it the vast number of LGBT people who have sought asylum in USA, Canada, UK, Netherlands, and other countries? Is it the existence of an antiquated piece of legislation that peers into the bedrooms of consenting adults? Or is it the strident activism of an anti-gay movement that uses propaganda and misuses information to limit the freedoms, rights, dignity, and humanity of Jamaicans who are LGBT? I will leave you to answer that question because I don't have the slightest clue. There is a fairly large community of LGBT people living in a drainage in the city's business community. A teen was murdered last year in July for merely dressing as a gender he or she is most comfortable presenting him or herself as. My friend who is transgender was denied entry to a soca party this year because the security said no cross-dressers are allowed. In all of this, an LGBT person's experience is compounded by their socioeconomic status in the society, therefore making it extremely difficult for those who cannot afford to live and navigate in less hostile spaces. However, in the midst of all this hoopla, there is growing resistance, a fascinating resilience that articulates and shows that young people are the generation of change, that we are committed to working towards engendering the kind of society we want to live in and enjoy as human beings with dignity and with rights. In fact, in the National Survey on Attitudes and Perceptions Towards Same-Sex Relationships conducted in 2012, it found that young people are least likely to discriminate against people because of their sexual orientation than their adult counterparts. The results of our efforts, not just young people, but the many persons who have worked tirelessly over the years, is change. The result is progress despite resistance from a plethora of stakeholders. The national survey, which was commissioned by JFLAG, found that 1 in 5 Jamaican respect LGBT people, and 1 in 5 would support an addendum to the Charter of Fundamental Rights and Freedom to include sexual orientation as a ground for non-discrimination. In addition, 1/3 of the population believes the government is not doing enough to protect LGBT people from violence and discrimination. In fact, young people continue to do what they can. A young gay Jamaican, my dear friend Javed Jagai, filed a constitutional challenge last year against the Buggery law. It's all very fascinating, I think. It's a bit unfathomable too if you think about it, all that has been happening in recent times. This certainly cannot be the most homophobic place on earth, but change is inevitable. There is progress, and I think we must acknowledge it, and promote these changes as part of a passive resistance to the narrative that is out there about Jamaica.
Talk, and we've been talking for some time. But from today, it's going to be action. From now, henceforth, this moment.